so difficult to find skilled labour. There's hardly any younger personnel coming through.
We just find like the reliability of labour's near impossible. The younger trades, it's not pushed. Apprenticeships need to be really pushed. If you get an idea of what a plasterboard is and like partitioning is, like the very basics of fit out, people don't have a clue. The hardest thing for me has been running a company and doing recruitment. Always be a pest, because if you're annoying me but you're making money, you're doing the right thing. I still had student loan, didn't really have any money, and I wasn't earning enough money to pay for the train fare as well as like live. Sitting in Cafe Nero on the phone to my mum with the offer in one hand and like my resignation in the other, weighing out which one I was going to go for. And
where does the future lie for the rest of the industry? Because, you know, in 20 years time, if there is still a lack of labour, it's going to be difficult to facilitate these projects with skilled personnel.
I think it will go the other way around. I think you'll find trades will be like most coveted.
Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Callum.
Thanks so much for coming on today, mate. It's been a long time coming because I know you guys have obviously moved office space and whatnot, so I appreciate you coming on, and thanks for letting us use the space. Helps us out massively. Mate, loads of topics I want to dive in today. We had a little brief chat before about them, so yeah, we know what we're up against, but prior to diving into the recruitment, to the industry, take it back to like, you know, your previous life, like what were you up to when you were younger?
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because I was quite like naughty kid at school. Not like big trouble, but just the teachers. It was always be like, you could try harder, distraction, didn't do my homework, that type of person. But if I liked something, I'd be 100% into it. So I've always been like that, and I'm still like that. If I don't like something, I just don't do it. If I'm into it, I'm 100% in or nothing. So yeah, did okay at school, but could have done better if I'd actually like applied myself.
It's typical, isn't it, though, when you're at school, like it's just generic topics that you probably aren't really interested in. It was the same as me. So playing up is like quite a normal thing to do.
Yeah, that's it.
So like what did you excel at? Like hobbies outside of school, was there anything interesting?
Yeah, played loads of sports, played golf to a decent level.
Golf?
Yeah.
Golf as a youngster is a bit of a random one.
Yeah, really young. Started when I was like 2 or 3. Granddad bought me some clubs, funded the whole thing, wanted me to play golf basically. He's a like passionate golfer, so every time he came over from Canada, it'd be golf. So that's what.
The thing is as well is there's so many people who play golf now who say, I wish I started when I was younger. And I've tried to play, very useless at it, but I've tried to play and I just can't get on with it. It's just too long form for me. It takes too much time. And like, there's not enough, like when I do, so I play sport, I play a bit of football, I played a lot when I was younger, but I like in like, so you're like active at the sport, you're running around or like just something, whereas golf, I feel it's just like super leisurely. Yeah,
you don't get that like instant gratification from golf. It's a lot of work. So when it was lockdown, I was playing 3 or 4 days a week. I got like really good, got my handicap down to 6.
That's pretty decent.
Yeah, that was good. So, but that is commitment to golf. That is like, get up, play golf, half day of work, get up, half day, play golf, walk to the golf club, par 3, top golf, whatever I could like get my hands on. I was just playing golf because it was one of the only sports that was like unlocked at the time. So we were playing golf, 4 or 5 times a week.
Why is it so big now, golf? Like, I swear 10 years ago or 15 years ago when we were younger, it wasn't really like a go-to sport, but nowadays I feel like a lot more people are playing it.
I think it's just like a good social.
Yeah.
People are coming away from, should we go to the pub? But me and my friends don't really go to the pub. We don't sort of say, oh, should we go to the pub this week? It's like, shall we play golf or paddle or tennis or whatever it is? And then we'll get more people along to that than we ever did if it was going to the pub or going out. So I think it's probably that sort of outdoorsy social. You can play it in 2 hours, you can play it in 4 hours. It's nice.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll pick it up one day, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So obviously school, you playing up a little bit, played a bit of golf. When you left school, what was the plan?
The plan was, so the school I went to really drummed in that you have to go to university.
Typical.
If you didn't go to university, you'd wasted school essentially. We had sixth form all the way through, so it was from year 7 all the way through to sixth form. So they would be getting you ready to go to sixth form, giving you the grades you had to get into your own sixth form and then on to university. They helped you like loads with the uni applications. They're really good at that because they obviously get funding from the more people that go to uni. But there wasn't help with what should you do at uni. It was just like, you want to earn money, do business or economics, or you found your own way, or some people sort of had parents in a certain industry so they go down that route. But I wasn't really that keen. Did apply, got into uni, and ahed about it, and then there was a lot of pressure at the time on results day to go, so I ended up actually accepting to go to university.
Yeah.
Went up north to go to university at Edge Hill, went with my best mate. I was there 8 weeks, and I just called my dad on a Thursday. I was like, what are you doing tomorrow? Can you pick me up? Picked me up, just went past the office, like admin office, logged out of uni, signed out all the documents, cancelled my loans, and just came home. And my parents were like, you can stay at home, but you have to work. Like, we're not letting you not work. So from there, I started working in a bar for about 40 to 50 hours a week. And then any spare hours I had, worked for my dad's business, which was jewellery business.
Yep.
Yeah, so I worked with him 9 to 5, and then I worked the pub 6 till 3 a.m. And then I just repeated that.
Some long hours.
Yeah, a lot of hours.
Yeah.
And then when they opened a nightclub, I did the nightclub after the pub.
Did you?
So I'd be coming home on a Sunday or like Sunday morning at like 7 a.m, 2 hour nap, and then go and play some five-a-side football or something on a Sunday. So I've never had I've always been able to work and liked working and wanted to sort of earn money. And that's sort of how I fell into recruitment. So I was in the pub, and every single Thursday there was this group of lads that looked like they were having a really good time, a little bit older than the demographic at Big Blue, but they recruited into insurance. And one of the guys in the pub was, oh, I know Steve, the MD, I'll introduce you. Got me an interview. And about 2 weeks later, I started on minimum wage.
How old were you then?
That was when I was 19.
And that was your first entry into
first
recruitment?
First job in an office, first job in
it?
recruitment. Yeah, recruiting into like Lloyd's Insurance.
Sounds shady.
Very slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, slow. It's obviously a regulated industry, so everything has to go jump through each hoop to get signed off.
So how long did you last at that recruitment agency?
So I did that for 18 months.
Yep. And you obviously must have learned quite a lot in terms of the recruitment process.
Really good business.
Yeah.
They're very drilled, very good at training. They put a lot of time into you. Like, you couldn't have asked for more. Still speak to them now, really good mates with them. But the earning potential, when you're out of London, you don't realise when you're working in your hometown what there is out there, whether you move to Manchester or you move to London. Like, city is where the economies are thriving. So even though we're working London, from outside London, you think you've got this like preconceived idea of what your market is. When you're here every day, you notice it's not like that at all. You've got to actually be there and like get ingrained in it to understand it. I actually know some people that work in insurance, and it's nothing like what we thought it was when I was working from a Hertford office. If I'd worked in a London-based insurance recruitment company, I might still be there. It's very similar to D&B.
So you said a Hertford office. So were you now obviously commuting to London? Do you live in London now, or were you living in Hertford at that point?
Yeah, I still live out in Hertford.
Yep.
I live in Ware, but everyone answers where's where.
I don't know where that is.
Say Hertford, it's easier. About 45 minutes north from Liverpool Street. Offices at Monument now, but we're moving obviously into this space.
Sure.
It's the first sort of day we've been in this space next week, which is exciting.
Commitment to the podcast for that.
That's it. So yeah, right by the Gherkin City office.
Nice space. So, you've lasted at that recruitment agency for 18 months. And then is that when you then entered into the D&B world?
Yeah. So I got a call from a guy called Thomas Wood, who still works in the industry. And he was like, could things be better? And at the time I was sort of weighing up my options. I had an interview with one or two of, I didn't know at the time, our current competitors. Got offered jobs, but never sort of clicked. Got the offer to join Big Blue, and I was like sitting in Cafe Nero on the phone to my mum with the offer in one hand and like my resignation in the other, weighing out which one I was gonna go for. And sort of walked back from that coffee shop, and I still didn't know what I was gonna do. And I just walked in through the door, and it was at that point I was like, okay, I'm doing it now. And it was very much like a rip the Band-Aid off. Not the best conversation, I must say. They weren't very happy.
I'm not surprised.
But I came up to London, still had student loan, didn't really have any money.
Yep.
And I wasn't earning enough money to pay for the train fare as well as like live. So it was very much like if I didn't earn commission, I'd be maxing out I still have my student account. So I still had the interest-free overdraft. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able to pay for the train.
Yeah.
So it was quite funny. And then I think within 8 days, I'd placed someone with a new client. And like the rest is history. From there, it's been great.
And then how long ago was that when you actually started at Big Blue?
6.5 years now.
So you've been here 6.5 years.
Yeah.
So we'll dive into that journey a little bit more, those 6.5 years. So you started at entry-level recruiter when you entered Big Blue.
I'd never worked with a client before in my life.
You'd never worked with one. So I bet communication was probably quite difficult to grab hold of it from the standstill. Because
So I'd always done the candidate side,
Yep.
which is a lot of chasing, speak to as many as you can. Whereas with the clients, it's a lot more, right, well, you know, what do you really like, diving into what you want. Well, it used to be, client used to be king. And I say it's obviously vitally important you've got a good relationship with your client, but candidates run the market now. They've got so much more influence in the job market and how interviews work and what offers look like and flexibility, and along with COVID, it's flipped. That's what Big Blue's been pretty good at. When I joined, I was just told candidates king. I always think like candidates are your product. You need good product to sell. There's always demand for good product. That was what I was always taught. So picking up the phone to the client wasn't too bad, because all I was thinking was, I've got a really good candidate, so you should be talking to me. And you take that sort of client off a pedestal, and actually it was quite easy to sort of get into it.
That's quite a flip, because you've gone from, you know, like you said, the candidate, but prior to that you were doing the chasing. That chasing from, you know, like a client's perspective, as I am, is very irritating, I'll be honest with you. You know, so I get DMs on LinkedIn all the time, phone calls all the time. Hey Callum, it's X, Y, and Z from X, Y, and Z. We spoke last week. Are you still interested in X, Y, and Z? Like weekly. So like, do you get taught that in the recruitment industry, like specifically to our industry, the D&B, but like, are you taught to pester the clients? And at what point do you think, you know, I've pestered them so much that they're probably not gonna, or if they don't want it, then there's no point in ringing them again, because I feel like it's just a never-ending phone call and a never-ending LinkedIn message.
I find that it's in recruitment, you sort of find who you're going to be working with. So I've been given clients when I joined Big Blue on the sort of D&B side that I now don't work with. Some I work with really closely and we've like built that relationship, but some it might have clicked with peers who obviously founded the business, but they haven't clicked too well with me. And what I've learned is that's fine. I've now got some really good relationships with some incredible D&B companies that we've never worked with before. Likewise, when I've brought juniors through, they're key accounts of businesses that wouldn't speak to me. So I think there's an element of you can chase too much, but also sometimes like you don't need to force stuff. There's a lot of work. There's abundance of work out there, and I think new people are like we've got a few very good competitors, but then the bigger agencies that compete in fit out, they'll aim for the big boys, like, you know, the Optras and the Morrises of the world, which have a place in your like book of clients, but actually D&B is built up of 10 to 30, 40 million pound businesses, owner-led, that have a lot more sort of flexibility in how they work, and they'll work with you, not the business and the account.
So I want to jump back on the recruitment person. Are you taught that to continuously, obviously if you've identified them as a client that, you know, you might be able to get some form of business from, are you taught to continually pester them until they come? Or is it just something that you need to get the knack, and if they give you, I call them buying signals, but if they give you signals, you'll then attack them, not attack them at you.
Yeah, I get you.
And I'm saying this from the perspective of like the client, because like,
I understand
the amount of times that I get messages and phone calls, and it actually gets so irritating to the point that I look at the company and I think, even if we did need to recruit or I needed something, I actually wouldn't use you because you're that irritating.
Yeah. So you get taught to follow up.
Yeah.
And there's an amount of follow-ups you get taught to do. And I think actually there's proof that following up does work. And you don't know, well, I've realised it now with being the client to recruiters to recruit for us. You do just miss stuff. So I appreciate when people chase me, but you're not taught to like pester. And I think if you have to get to the point where you pester, you're better off just giving up. But there are a lot of pressures in this job. You know, if you're not making money, you're not here, you're gone. And if you're in a bigger agency or an agency where maybe your market isn't the core market of that business, if you're not providing results, the pressure's on you. So then you can fall in that mindset of like chase.
I suppose you've got creative ways, haven't you, to do it? Because I mean, sorry to interrupt, but I've had some people who ring and they like blatantly lie. They're like, I spoke to you yesterday about potentially getting X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, I have never spoken to you before.
That is a recruitment technique that some of the agencies do teach.
But it's like,
it doesn't work.
How did that ever work? Because surely who you're speaking to is switched on enough to realise that they didn't speak to you.
The theory is that I've seen clients' phones where they've got recruiter 1, recruiter 2, recruiter 3, recruiter 4 just saved.
Yeah.
So they'll ring them if they need something, but they also just won't answer it.
Oh, I should do that instead of not saving it.
The theory is that they'll just go, we spoke yesterday, and the odds of a recruiter actually calling them that day is so high that they might well have spoken yesterday. I don't think it's a great tactic though. I wouldn't.
It is great or it isn't great.
No, it's not great. I wouldn't push it.
Nah, I'm not a recruiter, but I'm on the receiving end of that, and it's just not the one. It actually deters me from working with them.
But if your job's to, everyone will say the same thing, save time, save money, then you're not doing that if you're just pestering someone and coming up with lies as to why you're going to work with them. You need to have a good relationship, because the key actually is you can filter, you can look at a CV and think it's great, but what you pay a recruiter for is to fit them into your business, and then meet a couple and you're like, great, done, on to the next. If they're just pestering you, give them some work and you'll be surprised. The quality of work that comes through probably won't be that great, and you won't use them anyway. Yeah,
that's true. That is true. I didn't think about that. I should also definitely save the numbers. When I see it, I can just ignore it.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier as well that it's becoming more candidate led. So is that just specific to the design and build industry? And if so, why is it more candidate led?
Yeah, so it used to be pre-construction used to be always candidate led. If a good pre-con came on the market, they could pick where they worked. That's now sort of also going towards the project management side of things. I think it's two things. COVID changed a lot. So people were made redundant, or they left their jobs to work closer to home, or they decided they didn't want to commute anymore. So the talent pool, even though there's a large talent pool because we're in London, is not sufficient for the demand. On top of that, certain companies will go, oh, you've got 2 days work from home, 3 days work from home. They then find that doesn't really work, and the businesses are like, okay, well, we're selling offices, but we've got half our team at home. What are we doing? They'll make a change, and people are, oh, they change everything. I don't want to work here anymore. I'll find somewhere that offers work from home. And then they'll go to a business that offers loads of work from home. And you'll probably find that the good chance is that business also isn't performing as well as the companies that are in 4 or 5 days a week. So then, a candidate might look great, be very good at their job, very capable, but they're used to working 2 or 3 days a week. When they come to an interview, they'll say, yeah, I'm interested, but I want a day or 2 or 3 from home. And then you put the employer okay, I want to get this guy. I think they would be really good, or girl. I really want to get them in the team. I'm going to have to bend the rules. And it's just starting to get to the point where some people work from home, some people don't. There's no policy in place. And they just seem to call the shots a lot more than they ever have. Yeah, no, it's true. Have you found as well as the more candidates now, say nowadays, but candidates now compared to, 2022, which was only a couple of years ago, is there, because the 2022 is obviously primarily work from home, are they more flexible now with the working from home, or would you say the more of them want to come to the office? So I've noticed this as well for recruiting people here. Oh, what? So for you guys working here? Yeah, as well. Okay. So going through COVID, people were so stuck behind a screen, Teams, on their, on Xbox or PlayStation, chatting to their mates, but not seeing them as much, that they want 2 days from home in an entry-level job, where you would learn hands-on. So anyone coming through that wants work from home almost straight away. And they want, it's almost expected that they're not in the office 5 days a week. And I speak to a lot of people, especially the banking, insurance, corporate construction companies, where they're trying to downsize their office space. But they're going, okay, well, maybe we'll take a little hit on productivity to not pay for this massive office space that we've got. So I'd be shocked if you found a grad that wanted to be in 5 days a week, or a junior that had just got into the industry through COVID that wanted to be in 5 days a week. Yeah, it's it's been a massive topic of conversation in the whole D&B world, or workplace flexibility, work from home, and the conversation is just never ending. It seems to just is fluid. So either everyone wants to work from home, or you get a couple of days a week. But interesting point you raised earlier, where it kind of needs to be a little bit more flexible. They need to not have the choice
or the candidate or the employer or whatever you want to call it, in my opinion, shouldn't demand I want 5 days a week from home or I want 2 days in the office. It should just be like, how can we like work together? Like, are you willing to accept work from home? If so, like what's the rules and regulations here? Because I imagine with like larger companies as well, if they allow one person to do something, you've got to follow with everybody else, and then it could just become a little bit chaotic. Also, I'm unsure about the productivity element of working from home. That, and like, it must be, again, just speaking from my perspective, must be like lonely working from home because you can't collaborate with team members. So for me, I mean, I spent 1 week working from home peak COVID, and I couldn't do it because, you know, I can be quite easily distracted sometimes as well. So like, if you're working from home, there's no way you put in a full day's work. But I get it from, you know, there's other circumstances out there. So like, you know, like at the moment we're recruiting, there's a few candidates who are saying like childcare, like I need to be here for that time, and like that's when you can be flexible. But like the demands of people, which I suppose links back to it being candidate led, the demands of people saying like I want to have this and I want to have that. I suppose some people, employers, are sucking up to it because they need the talent.
They need the talent. But I guess that flexibility of childcare has been around for years before COVID. Like when I first started out, when I was in my summer holiday before I did sixth form, I did like a internship at an estate agency. People came and went. There was flexibility. Flexibility has been around forever. You speak to my mum, who was in tech sales, like when it was physical tapes they were selling in tech. There was flexibility there as well. So we're really flexible where we are. We've got, you know, 1 day from home if you're on target. But if someone says, I need to work from home this, or my like little boy's ill, can I work from home? They can work from home because you hire someone to trust them. But if they said, I need to work from home Monday and Friday every week, that's demand. That's not flexibility. Because then what if I need you in one Friday? And that's where the issue I think stems is, if you see someone work from home on a Friday and you say, right, we've got a really good meeting, it's Friday 11 o'clock, they go, I'm not in on Fridays. That's when it's not really working from home, because if you're working from home, you should be as free to get into the office for a one-off meeting.
That's a fair point.
But actually it's, I'm not in on Friday. That's not flexible working. That's you're working.
Yeah.
So that's a big gripe of mine.
Yeah.
I'm not in on Friday. I can't make that meeting. That's
them saying like, I'm not really going to be working Friday. I'm probably just going to be, you know, like dossing around, maybe on the computer a little bit. In terms of the actual Big Blue itself, so, you know, you've been there 6 years, started off as just a recruiter. How was your role, you know, transitions? Because you're director level now.
Yeah, managing director,
and you're 25?
26.
That's quite young to be an MD of a company. So tell us about the journey of how you've gone from, you know, the recruiter up to the MD role.
Sure. So when I joined, within about 3 months, became top sales alongside one other chap. We competed for probably 12 to 18 months.
Healthy competition?
Pretty good, yeah. We're the only people to hit the Iceland targets. We just got vouchers because we didn't want to just go to Iceland together. We always do like a holiday incentive. Then it was a bit of a change. We grew too quickly, but we grew in the wrong way. Like, we grew in a way where we were hiring people and teaching them how to do recruitment and about the industry. You can teach someone one or the other, I believe, or you have them as a junior and you agree that that's a sunken cost for 12 to 18 months. So we scaled to about 19 staff, which we're at now, but we cut it right back. It's funny, people think that we did that through COVID, but that's not the case. We stripped back the business to the bare bones of like 5 people before COVID, right back to just anyone that was performing. Alongside that, it wouldn't be fair to say that everyone wasn't performing. Certain people left because we let go of people, or because we stripped the business back. It wasn't that like larger company they wanted. They might as well do it themselves. There's a low barrier to entry to that. So some of our best employees at the time are now just freelance recruiters from home, or some travel the world, you know, make a placement a month and they're just permanently on an aeroplane. A few people have just clubbed together and they just do it between themselves in a small office. Works for them, like a lifestyle business. But we wanted to actually build something. So throughout COVID was actually when we made our first like hire of growth, and that growth has come off the back of, so we hired a guy called Jay. He was made redundant during COVID. and he did freelance. And we were like, we'd like to get into freelance. So he had a couple of offers on the table. Came up and met him. It was like the hottest day of the year. I still remember it like vividly. We were at the Avery, and when we got up, we were like stuck to the sofa. He's like, I'd like to accept, stood up and like ripped off the sofa. So then we were like, okay, we need to get an office because we're working from home, we're in COVID, but you're legally allowed to go in. So we got a tiny little 4-person office, moved 3 times within that group. And then from there, we've hired a couple of people that used to work with Jay. One guy called Josh, who set up our traditional fit out division that covers high-end resi, cut and carve, ACAP fit out. So heavy fit out. And then I carried on growing the design and build side. So we've expanded we've got a full sales desk now, which we used to have, lost it for about 3 years, got it back, got a girl called Christy from the industry. She's done BDM for years. So she's got really good network.
That's a good move, yeah.
Tenacious. Yeah, she's top performer for us, like by quite a long way actually. So it goes to show you can teach recruitment or you can teach the industry, but you can't really teach both unless you're going to sync that.
Yeah.
We then set up architecture. Got a guy called Tom to set up architecture. So that's now a team of 3 as it stands. It should be growing soon. One guy, Matt, does design. We've got a new girl called Claudia who's just started this week. She's doing design. That's going really well actually, already, because it's such a big desk. You can do it between 2 people. Any more gets a bit cluttered. And on delivery, we've got 4 people doing PMs and pre-con into design and build. 2 actually like complete juniors. One did IT support, and one came over from Australia after selling picture frames in a shopping centre. He's our highest performing, like fastest to recruiter.
I'm not surprised, because by the sounds of it, selling picture frames in a shopping centre is a hard sell. So you must have some acumen about you.
Yeah, he's quick, really quick, and he's a bit of a pest to me, like chasing me, but he keeps you on my toes. But that's a good thing. I told him. That's what I got told when I was like in my old business. They were like, be a pest. Like always be a pest. Because if you're annoying me but you're making money, you're doing the right thing. If you're annoying me and you're not making money, then you're just a pain. So the team's grown now. We're 18 staff. Piers, who founded the business, lives in Mallorca. And that's where this sort of role stemmed from. So for about 3 years, I'd been in a management advisory role with Piers, essentially running the business whilst he was moving to Mallorca. Then made it up to director. I had to prove myself before I could get the MD title. Doing quite a lot of external training, leadership programs, which is really good. You get to meet like a really good group of people.
What types of leadership programs did you go on?
I do a thing called LDP.
Okay.
It's like Vistage for the level below CEO MD. So most of the people I work with are like operations directors in 30 to 150 person companies, but a few are like head of HR for global accountancy firms. So they work with like in a sort of cohort of I think 12 people, and you get a guest speaker comes in. I think on Vistage we had Stephen Bartlett came in and did a talk, and then in the afternoon's workshop, but they're really good.
Yeah.
And you get to get a lot of experience very quickly. So that's accelerated a lot of things. But also Piers being away, it's just ripped the Band-Aid off, just drops me in. Right, I'm not here to help you. Like, he answers the phone, but he's not always readily available. So it's made me like come up with problems. It's quite nice texting him with a problem, solving it before he replies, and just deleting all the messages. That's where I was like, okay, I'm actually starting to get there.
Yeah.
And each problem we have is like a new problem, which I think that's progress. If it's the same problem over again, you're doing it really wrong.
Yeah.
If it's a new problem, then you're just moving forwards.
So how have you acclimatized to the MD role? Because you're, again, quite young for MD of a company size of 20 or 19 or whatever it was. So like, how have you managed to acclimatise to being the MD? So
initially it was really hard. There's people around you don't accept you as their manager straight away. So that was like, earn that for them.
And are you younger than some of them as well?
Most of them,
yeah. So I bet that was quite difficult, wasn't it?
That was a bit tricky, but that's flipped now. It's gone really well. Externally, it's not a problem. I've never had an issue externally, either hiring someone or with a client that age has been a problem. For me, it's like maturity. I'm still like a 26-year-old boy. There's an element of like, I'll say something I shouldn't say, or I don't think before I do something. I'm like, okay, That's like the young recruiter, like naughty boy in me almost coming out. But generally, it's the hardest thing for me has been balancing running a company and doing recruitment. So I'm still fully hands-on, and something has to give it, but I can't. Like, that's the tricky thing.
Yeah.
So where I've grown the team, now I'm sort of trying to use them to do the work, and I'll direct it and deflect. Speak to that person. Can you sort that for me? And try and like almost like project direct it.
Yeah.
But it just gets busier and busier and busier. I thought I'd have more time on my hands, and it's just not the case, which is fine. But it's just acclimatizing to permanently being busy. And then when you're quiet, there's a problem for you to solve that's not your fault. You haven't caused it. It's someone else's problem, but now it's my problem because that's what my job title just dictates. Never
Never-ending firefighting by the sounds of it.
Pretty much.
Let's touch on the labour element. So obviously you guys recruit for, by the sounds of it, all across the board, from high and resi to, D&B to architecture to PMs, pre-cons, everything.
Sure.
So how has the talent pool changed in terms of the people coming into the industry?
So entry level, I don't think many grads know what D&B is again until their parents or friends or family work in this industry. So when I speak to grads around the grad sort of time, you say, okay, you've got a QS degree, you're well presented, you speak really well, you'd be good at pre-con. Don't want to do that. Jobs are too small. So there's this idea that working a £250 million job is more glamorous than some of the like incredible £1 million jobs that these businesses do that are just like smaller scale but like super cool.
Do you think that's because of the whole idea around content creation around the project? So you've got £250 million job that, warrants like a proper video, and, there's photos, there's videography of this, and then people coming into the industry look at that and think, I would so much rather be involved in that, because look how aesthetically pleasing that is. Even though the £1 million ones are of equal ilk, but just 250 times smaller, but it doesn't look as good on the CV or on the record book for them, because you can say, I was part of the PM for that £250 million job, filtered down a long list of personnel working on it. But for me, in my opinion, it's probably more satisfactory having the £1 million job, knowing that you facilitated the whole thing yourself, but it might not be as glamorous on the case study or whatnot.
Yeah, there's a lot of the numbers like speak for some people, and I think when you look at these bigger companies that are doing bigger jobs, they spend a lot of money on marketing, even though they probably don't win their money from marketing, because you're not going to watch a video and spend £1 billion on a building. So, but then what I always use when I speak to them is, well, hang on, like, Pepsi, Revolut, Monzo, all these businesses, this is what they fit out. They do work with Apple, they obviously don't do their HQ, Formula E, Red Bull. When you list them off, that people are like, oh, that's really cool. But it's getting them to get past that point and actually look at these smaller jobs and look at the names and the people they'd be working with. You can, Ultra did Gymshark. They just worked with Ben Francis the whole time. So if you were the assistant project manager on that job or the site manager, you'd have been talking to Ben Francis almost every day. You don't get to do that when you're on a new build. Now, you need new builds. You need all of this stuff. But I think it doesn't help that there's not a demand as much for the junior talent. If you get a grad, there's a few names that will reply every time I meet them and put an offer together. But out of the amount of businesses that are in fit out, and especially sort of design and build, the lack of interest in taking a graduate with no experience. They want a grad with experience, and that's
doesn't make sense.
No, exactly. It doesn't make sense. Unless they've done a year in industry. So I placed a girl at Hop. I think she's just gone to Loop. She was out of the industry. She was doing a construction degree, but she had family that worked somewhere. So she did some work for Mace. She did like the glass install for a building for Mace. So she had an understanding of the industry, and one of her friends worked in fit out. But if it wasn't for the fact that one of her friends worked in fit out, she'd have taken her offer to go and work in like a subdivision of Mace doing just the glass installation for one of their jobs. And instead she's running like £3.5 million projects.
No, I see
getting really hands on. So if it wasn't for that sort of like intervention, coffee, chat about it, we'd have lost another like very capable person that could have been in another industry. So it's like sort of trying to capture the best ones and then be like, you really have to meet this. Like for 30 grand a year, what else are you going to get? It's a good investment. You need juniors to come through.
What do you think the actual talent pool though has in terms of the raw talent that they have and, you know, the level that they can get to? Do you think that's declined nowadays? Is to say like 6 years ago, which doesn't sound that long ago, but the whole world's changed in 6 years from, you know, 2018 to 2024 with everything that's happened. Do you think the actual talent pool has decreased in terms of their output in talent, or do you think it's increased?
Interesting. So if you look at construction, if you're going to be good at your job, you should also have a willingness to like go on site and get ingrained in it. You can't just learn from behind a screen. The idea of being on site for a lot of people, they just don't want to do it. They want to, like I said, work from home, be very hands off. I also think where a lot of people have gone through the sort of recent talent pool of uni from home, it's very sort of like disassociated. People's like people skills aren't quite there, and I think you have to be a people person in D&B. PM's job is firefighting and telling everyone it's okay. Like pre-con's job is coordinating with the designers that need to be able to pitch. So it's all people skills, and I think that's a big loss. Is some people, they're very bright, they just don't have the people skills to sort of go and put their best foot forward. If you can't sell yourself in an interview in D&B, no one's going to hire you. That's where I think the skill shortage is. And also, I don't know how easy it was to have, I don't think there were many year in industries. Whereas, you know, a year of working on any building site, if you get an idea of, you know, what a plasterboard is and what like partitioning is, like the very basics of fit out, people don't have a clue. So they can do their degree and still not really understand what they're doing.
Nothing beats on-site experience.
No, and I don't think you get taught the models of how to QS when you do a degree, but until you go into the job, you don't realise that how businesses do it is a little bit different, and you have to probably operate differently almost on every project. So.
How do you think, so you've got, you know, I'm just specifically talking about the D&B fit out, QS, PM, and in terms of those two specifically, actually, what's the natural progression for somebody? So say like you've got somebody who's maybe not done a uni degree, but they want to get in the industry.
Yeah.
Where do they primarily want to go for? Do they want to go for project management? Do they want to go for QSing?
So the QSing is always hard. People don't want to do the numbers like that. And actually PMs don't want to do the numbers. And in D&B, project managers tend to actually do the QS part. Yeah. And a QS would be pre-construction. When you're junior in pre-construction, you are more of an estimator. So people don't want to estimate. There's a word, like the word estimating seems to make everyone like shrivel up and not want to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas the reality of that is after you understand roughly, you know, sort of, okay, you can estimate a 500 grand job. Your job becomes so like client facing and like holistic that actually it's one of the most important jobs. But getting people into that job is tricky. So I actually placed one of my friends, no experience in a D&B company, and he's now there. He's been there just over 2 years, promoted to commercial manager, but he runs the whole of the company's financials from start to finish on projects. He's client facing, you know, he's work winning, and he's like so ingrained in it, he loves it. If I said to him, do you want to be an estimator and cost the projects for this, and like really bluntly explain what the job is, he'd never have gone to the interview. But it's only because I've seen people do really well. I was like, look, you should absolutely chat to these guys. They're really cool. You get on really well with them. That he even considered going. I never actually thought he'd like properly work a job. He's one of those guys that sort of like dipped his toe in. I was like, is he going to last 3 months? Is he actually going to like get through his probation? And he's the best hire they've had. So it's just like getting people into that. So to answer your question, it's easier to get someone into PMing because you'll do a construction management degree, you know you're going to be a PM or a construction manager. Whereas when you do a QS degree, it's very easy to go, I've done a QS degree. Why don't I go and do a government contract that's 2 billion and I can do a very small segment of work. And if I need like assistance, it's there. Whereas in design and build, you're a little bit more exposed. You'll have someone help you. You won't have someone watch what you do and check everything you do the whole way through.
Yeah, you're almost like a self-entity as such. And also I found, again, just from, so we're obviously a lot smaller than the big boys. I find that like in people who work in companies like of our size, like 1 to 50 employees and maybe like 5 to 10 million, I feel like the people who work in those companies are usually well-rounded. So they might do some of the estimating and the project managing and the QSing and the aftercare and the pre-con as well. How difficult is it to find people who are that well-rounded, that they're capable, they don't expertise in any of them specifically, but they're capable in all of the areas?
Yeah, it's definitely a regional thing. You're more likely to find someone that's well-rounded if they're working out in the sticks a bit.
I see. So you're calling us from the sticks, yeah?
Yeah. So, if you're out of town, I mean, M4 corridor sort of thing, that's where you'll find someone that's a bit more well-rounded, or one of the smaller businesses, like you say. But then very quickly you see, right, PMs think pre-con have an easy job. Pre-con think PMs have an easy job. If you're a pre-con, you're not going to be a PM, but you'll go, okay, I want to be a PD, because you think that's an easy job because they earn the money. And then if you're a PM that can do the numbers, you think you can be a pre-con.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you're a pre-con, you want to be a PD.
Yeah.
Now, what about commercial director? No, I want to be a PD. What about construction director? I want to be a pre-con. Like, you've got to get there sometime.
Yeah.
And it's actually refreshing. You speak to a pre-con, they go, I'd like to be a commercial director. I'm like, wow. I'm almost like taken aback, because everyone I speak to wants to be a PD.
Why is that? What's the attraction to being a PD?
Obviously you can earn brilliant
apart
money,
from the money, yeah, but
I think that's it. People think that, okay, well, the PD, they'll look at, say like my job, they'll go, oh, you just get the people to do it for you. That's how it's seen outside, is, okay, well, the PD checks the client and then everyone does the work for them, which isn't necessarily the case. But that's how it's looked at.
Yeah, it's a lot more than that, I'd imagine.
Yeah, but people go, it's easy. They get the client, we do the work. That's the sort of like flippant comments. Then you'll go and do it and be like, wow. On a Saturday when I would be relaxed with my family, I'm thinking, are we going to win this job? Because otherwise I'm like 3 down. I've lost 3. When you're on a roll, you think you run the world.
Yeah.
And then when you're losing, you're like, I could lose my job now, because if the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
So
let's go on to the actual on-site shortage as well, because we've had a really good chat about the whole office-based staff shortage. So what about the on-site shortage? Because like from our perspective, working in the industry day to day and trying to get people in, it's so difficult to find skilled labour and whatever it is, whether it's like carpentry, electrics, plumbing, petition, ceilings, whatever it is. It's very difficult to find somebody, firstly, who's experienced, and secondly, who is experienced and actually pretty good. And also the younger side of things, like there's hardly any younger personnel coming through. So when we're pulling people over to work for us, they're always 40, 50, 60 experience, they've been around, but there's no one 20, 30, and I get they're not going to be experienced at 20, but just to have the drive and the ambition to want to succeed in the industry as such. So like, why do you think that is, and where do you think that's going? Because it is a major issue, and I'm sure it's a huge issue in London, because it's like the centre, the hub of everything, and even it's an issue where we are.
It's a mega issue. So we do trades and labour as well, and we find it's really hard. Good labour is hard. I mean, one, you think you've got someone starting Monday, and an agency calls up with an extra £1 an hour, you'll just go to that other site because you're going to work. You might as well earn more money. Makes sense. When you're at school, you're told to go to university. You're given all these like white collar jobs. Or if you fail at school, they'll go and be a plumber, which is one of the most highly paid jobs there is. Or like, I remember one boy at school from year 7, we'd sit down and we'd do like this careers day. What do you want to be when you're older? Plumber. And they'd always be like, no, think of like something, doctor. Or so, no, I want to be a plumber. And they sort of like pushed him down. He became a plumber. He earns loads of money. He does really well for himself. So it's like, my school particularly pushed you away from doing a trade. It was like looked at as like a sort of like lower class job, when actually anyone I know that does it, or like, their dad does it, whatever, do really well for themselves.
Yeah, they do. You're right.
And if you're good, you're getting paid more than the manager that's managing you. you can be bad at the job as well, but if you're good, you can be doing really well for yourself. And there is a route up. Trades background, there's a big demand for like a trades background, say a carpenter or a sparky or whatever, that's like well educated, gone down a trades route, and then wants to become a manager. They can hold themselves in a meeting, but they actually know what's been built. There's a big demand for that, like massive demand. And if you do want to come off the tools, you can be a site manager because you actually understand what's built, and you get to see a lot more than just your trade. So not that you could just become a plumber because you've been working on a site as a carpenter, but you'll pick up how air conditioning roughly works or is installed, or how it shouldn't go in or whatever. And you pick up a lot of like skills that way. So we just find like the reliability of labour is near impossible.
Why is that? Is that because they are getting offered
A bit more money,
an extra pound?
Potentially some people that have gone down, like I say, down that route. If say you've gone through like where I was at school, where they go, okay, well, you're not doing well, go and do this. Maybe they don't want to do it. Maybe they'd rather go out and then they're hungover and they don't go to work or whatever.
Your Monday club.
Yeah, that's it. Like Mondays, no shows on Mondays is insane. Like we have to overbook sites. And so, we have to tell a client, right, we're going to probably book 6 people for your 4 because 2 might not show up. And then we'll book 6 and 3 turn up. You're only 1 down. It's not the end of the world, but you're arranging 6 people to go sometimes and half don't turn up, and you can't get up and drag them to work. There's nothing else you can do. You can reference them, send over all the documents. An agency calls them Sunday night with I'll pay you a bit more if you do me a favour type thing. So
I see.
That's a pain. It's really difficult. But yeah, the younger trades, it's not pushed. I think like apprenticeships need to be really pushed. Unless you're like someone that you know is in a trade. It's always, all of my friends or my brother's friends that have gone into the trades is they didn't know what to do, and their mate's dad or their mate's mate does carpentry, does joinery, does plumbing, does electric, and then they go and do it and they go, oh, this is really cool, and I'm working on the shard and I'm doing this and it's great. And they realise there's a big world out there and it's like very useful. If you want to go and work abroad, easy. It's one of the highest skills. So Australia, take any trade.
Yeah, a couple of mates, to be fair.
Recruiters.
A couple of mates have moved to Australia and done that. And you're right to the point where, when you leave school, if you want to get into a trade, it's almost like you've been degraded down to being a trade. I actually did a LinkedIn post maybe last week or something about this. And usually, if you look at it from a holistic perspective, and you look at, say, for instance, I think this is what the post was sort of about. You look at like an IT manager, or you look at like a tradesman, and they both work the same hours. Granted, a trade is more manually and physically harder, whereas like IT manager, this is just hypothetically saying, so not calling out any IT manager or anything, but like working on site as a trade, you can earn significantly more money, and the ceiling to the money that you can earn is a lot higher. Whereas like when you leave school, they might push you down that uni route for reasons I can't be bothered to speak about today, because they probably push you down there because they get paid per student who goes there. And like if you're a trade, you're getting paid to learn as well, not getting yourself in debt, but it's like a dirty job. But like that perception needs to go, because it is a dirty job because you're physically getting dirty, but the actual work itself is super important. We need more of them as well, and also the ceiling cap from what you can earn. If you're quite good at it, and your communication skills are good, you can progress pretty high as a tradesman in terms of like getting some work in, and bringing people through, apprentices, and building yourself a little company, or even a big company at that. And also the fact that it's just downgraded from school kind of irritates me as well, because I did it, carpentry, instead of going to uni. And like, unless you are going to do the white collars or the doctors or the lawyers, like there's not really any point in going to uni, in my opinion. You're better off doing a trade, as long as you're
No, you're right.
I genuinely think it is. In terms of the whole, it's going to be an interesting one, because the common perception of someone like the PMs getting labour from an agency, the first thing people think about is, if they're at an agency, they can't be any good. If they were any good, this labour, they would be working for somebody at the moment. Like that perception is so prevalent in the industry. So like, if I was to contact an agency and say I need a carpenter in a couple of weeks' time, I have reservations about that carpenter, because I think why is he working at an agency and getting passed around companies? Why has he not been grabbed by a company?
Sure. So, I mean, a lot of agency work's short-term cover, right? So you're in between jobs. You're going to pay your carpenter for no reason? Probably not. So they're out of work. They're freelance. They run it through limited companies, tax benefits, of course. There's that. Everyone obviously gets reference, right? So you go through that whole referencing process and you make sure they're good. And most people that we work with are referred to us by either someone they've worked with on site or site manager or a PM. And so you start to build up a book of who's good, who's not. If someone's bad, they come off the next day. I appreciate that could be a day of having a bad chippy, but it does happen. You can reference the best project manager and they don't know what they're doing as well. So a lot of it is us going to them and saying, are you around? Really need someone for this week, next week, what have you. Everyone wants those longer contracts, but the industry doesn't support those longer contracts because you won't be doing the carpentry aspect on a job the whole way through the project. And only a select few people will go on those projects, and actually often they're for the bigger subcontractors, and even they use agencies. So we do quite a lot of work supplying subbies with labour to then bring to site. So you'll pick up the phone because you're one carpenter short, one labourer short. That's probably because your subby is a labourer short or a carpenter short. So we also would fill that. So you might not even know the person's not working for that.
I see.
So it's not all,
It's just a weird perception though, because like from a project manager's perspective, if you are ringing up an agency to get labour, I don't know why. It's just the thought process is like, who am I going to end up with? Because like they might have vetted that person out, but like I'm always very apprehensive about who's going to turn up and like what sort of calibre of work they're going to be able to do. But I suppose if you vet it, do you find the bigger boys around London are working with agencies a lot more, or do they usually have their labour already sorted?
So you'll have most of the labour's brought by subbies. That's the like standard. And then what a couple of our clients like to do is they like to have one like company labourer on site at all times that is reporting into the like PM or the ops director rather than the subby that's on site, to make sure everything's going fine and almost be like a pair of ears almost. We're doing most of our trades, it will either be I need a labourer of 3 or 4 or whatever you to take a delivery. I find it incredible how many people it takes to take a delivery. I'd like to actually see how this works because
and what they're doing.
I need 4 labourers because we've got delivery coming on Monday.
Yeah.
Labourers doesn't turn up, delivery gets moved. I'm like, that's critical.
Yeah.
But also, how much stuff is being moved? I thought the delivery would be taken by the delivery guy. So to me, when it's like a day and I was just hearing that's just to take a delivery, it's like incredible. And then we do get a lot of work where it is mainly subcontractors or big restoration companies or what have you, where it is maybe a bit more manual, heavy lifting. I think generally with fit out, subbies bring the work and we'll put 1 or 2 extra, or you might need a carpenter to help, or smaller works. A lot of D&B companies will have an aftercare section. Yeah. They'll just bring it a handyman, a labourer, a magic man or whatever. Magic man's like a dying trade now. Yeah. They're impossible to get.
And good ones as well.
They're impossible.
So difficult.
Yeah, so expensive. But you'll be paying, over the odds to get a decent or a skilled labourer, because then you've got someone with a CSCS on site. That's another thing.
Yeah.
But just like helping out, like when you're doing a second fix, that's a lot of our labour requirement in D&B. Most of it's actually outside of design and build.
Is it?
I don't think you could. Yeah, because Lawmans do most of it.
Yeah, we use Lawmans.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
No one's ever said a word bad about them. So.
And I mean, some of their plasterboard shifters I've never seen anything like it. To be honest with you, how they can get plasterboard and like glass as well. Sometimes they can carry like sheets of glass on their back upstairs. It's actually incredible.
I've never heard a bad word about them. So yeah. Most like T&L agencies that you'll speak to in this industry will make most of their money on groundworks or like the larger scale projects where it is, I need some labour for this week or 2 weeks. I mean, we've got 12-week contracts going at the moment, but it's definitely not design and build.
Is it not?
No.
What about the future of it? So obviously we've spoken a lot about the labour shortage, why there's labour shortage in and out of the office and on site. Like, what's the future looking like for it? Because people like of our age as such, we've mentioned they're not really coming into the industry. So, once we've got the age bracket between 40 and 70 or 50 and 70, once they've passed work, like where does the future lie for the rest of the industry? Because, in 20 years time, if there is still a lack of labour, it's going to be difficult to, facilitate these projects with skilled personnel. It's
going to be difficult. It's whether like robotics comes in and actually does make an impact. There's a lot of I saw a post someone put up on LinkedIn of the like implementation curve. So that AI becomes really, really cool. Everyone buys it. It's like at a peak, and then it just drops off. Like people haven't been speaking about AI so much recently, and it's back to like half as it was maybe 2 years ago. And then it will be like, okay, we can implement this kind of works. Like you've got Siri on your phone that has AI in it now. It works, but it's not, this thing is taking my job, and it's so far away from doing that. I don't think that's going to be the route. So,
but it's difficult
I'm a bit worried about it actually, because people are so used to their phone does everything. You've got Deliveroo, Uber Eats. I never grew up with that where I lived, because we were out in the sticks, so you couldn't get a delivery. So you had to go and get it. But people are like, okay, I can deliver this. Amazon next day. Everyone's on the phone and their work's on a computer. No one can even think about. I don't think there are many 12-year-olds at the moment thinking, I'm going to go and lift stuff and cut stuff up and like connect that U-bend. I can't see that being a thought process. I can see everyone thinking, I want to code apps or games, or maybe go and work in insurance because my dad does it, or work in banking because you've got the Wolf of Wall Street. Then when you get to uni, you're like, actually, do I want to work 70-hour weeks or 80-hour weeks? So I think there is going to be a harsh...
It's going to be a problem at some point. I always think about
10, 15 years, I think, because also there's a bit of ageism in the market. So you've got the experienced people, they struggle because they're older. Everyone wants younger people. You've got grads that haven't been on site. Then you've got that middle gap. So everyone's a junior until they're a senior. There's not many middle PM, pre-com, what have you. They're really hard to find. And if you find one, they go for big money, and then you're like, okay, well, you might as well just have a senior title because you're getting paid that money. So there is going to be a gap where everyone wants to be a manager because no one wants to be on site or cold and on site at 7 o'clock in the morning. I think there's going to be
it's going to be a problem at some point.
There will be a problem.
I can't see, you'll know better than me, but obviously it's going to be very difficult for artificial intelligence to, steal jobs of manual labour, as such, lifting things, fixing things. Maybe at some point that's going to be, but at the moment probably not. So at some point, there's going to be all of this construction going on. Construction is never going anywhere. We need to continuously be building and improving spaces, houses, residential, commercial, whatever it is. It needs it for the economy to go around. So construction is not going anywhere. It's just the people to facilitate the construction projects. So it's going to be difficult to actually be able to facilitate them with people who don't want to come in industry. Because you mentioned a minute ago that, these people want to do coding or gaming or whatever it is because it's physically easier and, it's more accessible, so you can just sit at home and do it. And then that links back to the communication thing that you said earlier, that like these people are, struggling to communicate now because they're working from home and they're on their own at home. So whether or not they want to go to a building site, they probably won't be cut out for it because they're not used to it. They're not used to, the graft or whatever it is. And then going into the office as well to be able to communicate with clients and communicate with the labour, they can't do that either because they've been sat in their room and doing X, Y, and Z, and there's probably space for coders and gamers or whatever it is. But, they're sucking up, that element of work is sucking up some people that should or could be in the industry to be able to carry out these projects in 20, 30 years' time.
I think it's going to be like when people that could code were the most valuable asset in the market. Now, loads of people go to uni and they code, and it's like, okay, the value, or not the value, but like these salaries of those jobs come right down. You can be a top developer in a business for 80 grand a year now. It used to be $250,000. It was silly money. Yeah. I think it will go the other way around. I think you'll find trades will be the most coveted.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't think about that. So they'll get, it's already started because the actual labour rate for trades has increased drastically because of that labour shortage. So if that gets more and more, the rates will go up and up, and then it will become more of a, like a prized job, to be a carpenter. You're sat there like, I could make 350 quid a day or 300 quid a day or whatever it is being a carpenter, or I can make, like 30 grand a year doing X, Y, and Z or whatever it is. So you're probably right that the less people coming through, it makes it more of, like a more, the wages that you could get being a trade is so much more competitive than what it would be if you were, coding game, whatever. Well, I'm hypothetically saying coding game, so I'm not actually just
no, but it's a good example. There's so many other jobs that are just like that. But I'd be really trying to push. If I was going into schools and you see people with poor GCSEs, I'd be really trying to push those guys to go and learn a trade. But even not even poor GCSEs. If you don't know what you want to do, go and learn a trade, because you'll meet loads of people and you'll find something. And there's no point in spending the best part of 30, 40 grand on a degree you won't use. Go and earn good money, be on site, like learn what hard work is, like actually go and work, but get paid for it, meet some really good people and like see where it goes. Because I remember when people used to go and do it, I'm going to do carpentry, people would laugh at them. Now I'd be like, that is the best option you've got. Like that's probably one of the best options you've got.
Yeah.
I met someone that's doing a technical services apprenticeship. They'd never have known that unless their like dad knew the industry, but it was quite cool to be like, oh, what, that company offers an apprenticeship. That's like unreal. I mean, TSMs are harder to find than pre-con commercial. Yeah. They're one of the hardest things to find for any business. And he's going to get trained up from school into how to be a TSM in fit out. That's like perfect. But it's like finding that, it's like a one-off.
It's difficult, isn't it?
You won't find 5 people in your local area that are training to be TSMs. That just won't be a thing.
No, you're right.
So you need people to go and do this. Otherwise, what's going to happen? Everything's just going to be machine milled. Labourers install it. Quality's down. You need like bespoke joinery and all of this stuff.
It's not going anywhere. It's got to be around. And as the development of construction goes on and on and on, like everything's a lot more bespoke within buildings as well, as we're trying to work with buildings that have different, like elements. They've got different shapes, sizes, like everything's going a little bit more bespoke. And it'd be interesting to see if, construction slows down once, you mentioned ageism earlier, but it is a thing that the older guys who've been around and girls who've been around for a long time, and they're more skilled and they know what they're doing more so than the younger lot. When they pass their working career, what's going to happen to construction? To the point, is it going to slow down because we need the next generation to catch up with this skilled element, or is it going to continue to go? Projects will get delayed, budgets will get overrun. It's just an interesting topic of conversation to know what's going to happen. You never know.
Design's getting better. I mean, the tech that's going into design now. Have you seen Revolut's office, like walkthrough?
It's incredible. Yeah,
it's like unthought. You wouldn't have thought you could do that 5-10 years ago.
And you need people to facilitate that.
That's going to be harder to fit.
Yeah.
There's a lot more skill now to install that and actually deliver that job. Like the work's one.
Yeah.
But you've got to deliver on that. You're putting in never seen in an office tech in an office, and you're going to have to teach. But that's what's cool. That's what I'd be selling younger people on.
Yeah.
Like if you like AI, we'll come and be an AI specialist for a fit-out company, because that will become a thing. AV technicians. Overbury have a team in their technical services team that just basically do IT and AV as a specific job. So if you like tech, do that. Do data centers. Go and actually do the building of it. Go and help roll out NVIDIA's like latest like mega project. Like that's really cool stuff that they could get a bit more involved in than just like being sort of behind a screen. That could be a good USP, to be fair, that you guys could be able, you guys after school, you guys will be able to facilitate these types of projects. If you come into the commercial construction or the resi construction industry, look at these projects that are being carried out at the moment, and you're right, the design is exponentially getting more creative. There's more designers involved in projects rather than just like one or two. There's more like teams of people who are designing really specific like areas and team members within a company who need specific things within their workplace. And it's a very interesting journey that the industry is going into. We spoke a lot about the future of the actual industry itself, but what about the future of Big Blue? Like what's the plans with Big Blue? And also what do you guys do differently to make someone like me, who's probably an ideal client, use you guys? Sure. So I'll start with what we do differently and I'll go into like the plans. So what we do differently is we teach people in our business to like know what they're talking about, like actually understand their niche. So whereas someone would maybe recruit into fit out, we recruit PMs into fit out, or like sales into fit out, or design into fit out. So you only work that vertical. You learn that vertical, you meet people in that vertical, you speak to people, you ask questions, you learn how different companies work those job titles, because job titles are a big issue. Like construction manager can be site-based, multiple runs commercials. You never know until you actually dig into it. So that's why you'll get so many like questions. You're like, surely you should know what this is, because other businesses name it completely different. So we make sure everyone like knows exactly what they're doing. We also hire people to do that, like trust that they'll do their job. So we expect people to be able to like work with a client as if it's their own business. They'll get well paid for it as well. So we pay people well to do an above average job. So we don't suffer for like underperformance. That's not all about money, early hours, and like smashing the phone. That is like, do the right thing. Like make sure that you're actually adding some value to your client. We invest a lot in AI. We spend a lot in AI that does work. Like it's useful. We can do a big search quite quickly and quite effectively. But like we were saying, it won't take over the inputs. It's what you put in, you get out of AI. It might take the legwork off, but actually if your input's rubbish, you're just another pesky recruiter just spamming people with rubbish.
Annoying.
So you've got to be smart with it. And we also like really push on personal brands. So, you know, if we're struggling to fill a job within the business, where I've been working on my LinkedIn for quite a lot recently, if I put a post up, there's a very good chance that someone will reply, even if they're not directly correlated to me. So we use network a lot more. It's not cold calling. It's not chasing. It's far more like, okay, well, we also meet everyone. So we've met everyone we work with. If we can't get to them, it's a Teams call, but we make sure we've had like interaction with them. It's not just here's some CVs that we found.
Yeah,
it's a call, then a meet or a Teams.
You also got a relationship with those guys, because I was speaking with Joe on the way up here, and we were talking about that exact thing. That I think he was giving me an example of somebody who was cold outreaching him for I can't remember what it was, like maybe fitness or something like that, and they were like pestering because there's no pre-existing conversation, relationship, rapport, or anything like that. It made him not want to work with them. And I was like, I gave him a couple of examples of exact same thing, which primarily evolved around recruitment agencies, bombarding us. So it's probably a good thing to hear that you build the rapport prior to wanting to work with them, and then when they are ready to work with you, they obviously, the first thing they think of is Big Blue. I've met Will, I've met the guys there. We've got a relationship going on. They seem like good guys. They seem like they care about us as clients and whatnot. So we'll probably work with them. So that's probably a real positive for you guys. Yeah,
it works really well. There's an element of, look, if you come across someone good or like a grad or whatever, we will send that out to people we've spoken to or people we'd like to speak to occasionally, not on the regular, because you never know. Timing's like one of the key things in sales. You can try and sell something to someone. Oh, you want a new car? No. Then your car breaks down, you want a car, right? So there is an element of, if you're keeping touch points and you're not a pest, there will become a day where they're like, actually, we do need this. So there is that element of...
It's that like, balance there, isn't it?
Not everything
keep the touch points.
is... you can call and build rapport and then not deliver. I think it's also sometimes a good way of showing that you can deliver by going, look, this guy's like best in class. We haven't worked together, but this is who we represent. And then the plan for the business is where we've got our fit out team, we've got architecture. Architecture, I think, will grow slightly more. Funnily enough, we don't actually have an interior design desk within architecture. We've got 2 people recruit design for D&B, but not for architecture. So that's a growth area for us. We currently have 1 person covering landscape and urban. We'd like to sort of split that up and make that a team of 5, 6. Yeah. Sales still has way to go, so we'll probably double the size of the sales team. And then alongside that, we're looking to grow into main contracting, residential new build, sustainability,
tough
mechanical,
market.
Electrical. Yeah, tough markets, but they complement what we do really well. So if we can do it right, and we want to do it right, we won't just like force it has to be right. If we can do it right, we'll probably be circa 25 to 30 staff. And I think at that point, we'll have to sort of take stock and be like, are we happy with the size of the business? It's not too political at 30 people. We can stay in this office or we can move and find a nicer place, a bit more space. By then, it might be you have to offer flexible working 2-3 days a week, so we might not need as much office space. We'll see how that goes. But ultimately, I want to build a platform so I can bring people through, like take them on as juniors, train them up and make them good recruiters. Because we've had in the past, we've hired people that are meant to be really good somewhere else, and either they don't, they're too reliant on the infrastructure the old business had, or they've like lost the love for it or whatever. And actually, I think bringing someone on and giving them the opportunity to, I've never thought about doing recruitment, or I've never thought about doing it in construction. One of our guys is a carpenter, ex-carpenter, and he was like, I want to do something else. We've trained him to be a recruiter. He's really capable. So it's quite nice actually, like getting someone and being like, this is a career path for you if you put the work in, and then seeing those people. He is one of 2 people that's opened up high-end residential for us.
Interesting.
So being a carpenter, worked on high-end resi projects, so I'd love to do that. We're like, okay, we don't have any experience in that. We've got an idea of who works in it. Here's like a target list of clients. Learn your niche, learn what you're doing, and go and work in that space. He's already got some brilliant clients on the board. So that's really nice to see.
So there's big plans for you guys then,
yeah,
going forward.
Big plans for now.
No, it's nice to hear. Well, Will, thank you so much for coming on today. Mate, it's been so interesting to dive into. This is a topic of conversation I really wanted to have with somebody about the labour shortage and what's going on in the industry. And it's good to hear it from a recruitment perspective. So, because you're almost at the cold face of what's coming in and the input and the output of the labour as such. So thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much, Will.
Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate it.